Super Mario Odyssey delivers us to Lake Lamode of the Lake Kingdom. Lake Lamode is an isolated town known as the Land of Fashion and houses a tiny population of mermaid designers called Lochladies. They're the proud designers of the Lochlady dress, which is, to my surprise, a typical Western wedding dress that has grown in popularity in Japan. Curiously, if we examine the surrounding area, the town is mostly barren. The Lochladies don't even swim in their own lake. So what happened to the Lochladies? The missing Lochlady mystery spurs several questions. Nobody resides at the soaking pool except for a few creatures, so does the town suffer from a pest problem? Can Mario resolve the pest problem so the Lochladies can start designing again? Maybe we can discover or create a new soaking pool for dyeing cloth. Are other dress designer resources also out of commission? Can we slowly attract the Lochladies back to their Lake Lamode hometown after restoring their beautiful home and workshop? Are the Lochladies overly stressed about their designer jobs, or perhaps they found better opportunities in other kingdoms? Unfortunately, none of these questions or possible story beats are explored. Lake Lamode's story or objective yet again settles on the Broodals. They steal the supposedly beautiful Lochlady dress for Bowser and then float above a boss arena. Of course, the Broodals remain above the arena for the sake of a boss fight, but the in-game justification specifies that Bowser hires the Broodals to keep Mario busy and stop him in his tracks. And yet, there's a gap in congruity between Bowser's wedding goal and the Broodals' execution of Bowser's presumably open-ended orders. The Broodals efficiently fly over kingdoms to steal the respected wedding item before we even land in the kingdom, so why do they chill out and wait for Mario to catch up to them? Instead, the Broodals should rush to each kingdom ahead of us to collect the wedding items and complete Bowser's wedding before we're even halfway done with the game. Bowser's improper planning characterizes him as careless and frankly stupid, so consequently the player lacks the motivation to rush to Peach's aid with any semblance of urgency. Why act in haste on a supposedly time-sensitive plot when Bowser doesn't treat his own plan as such? Additionally, Mario Odyssey's only plot point is just the damsel in distress trope. The characterization sorely lacks, and we mostly find traces of Bowser after certain kingdoms' prized wedding items have already been stolen. In fact, both Bowser and the Broodals always seem to get away with stealing the prized wedding item just in the nick of time. We cannot save the kingdom's wedding item from Bowser's grasp before it's stolen, and we never physically retrieve and return said item ourselves. So there's no player attachment to the special kingdom items and no desire to reach the end of a kingdom storyline. We ultimately don't care about the stolen wedding goods and rescuing Peach, so we don't view Bowser as a true rival, but rather a crescent moon in the sky surrounded by 879 other moons. So if we don't care about the story or consequently the objectives, then why do the objectives even exist in the first place? Mario Odyssey's core gameplay loop comprises mostly of optional worldly and sub-area moons, and so the mandatory story or objective moons fill in the gaps. The mandatory objective moons don't focus on any meaningful story or significance of the location, they simply mark loose points of interest and guidance. The objectives exist to maintain slight pressure on the player to continue to the next kingdom, while both the objectives' artificial nature and the minimum moon collection requirements keep the player present in the kingdoms for a non-trivial amount of time. Odyssey doesn't want you to skip the optional moons, but at the same time, doesn't want you to remain in one kingdom for too long. This balance makes sense because players tend to discover the flaws of the power moons as a reward system in the late and or post game. Odyssey places great importance on its first playthrough. The game encourages players to gather the optional moons when they're densely packed in the kingdom, rather than in the late or post game when they're sparse and have overstayed their welcome. Despite the objectives' contrived nature, they exist to concur with the moons as a reward system, even if they're either often a dull means to an end, or an absolute absurd, incoherent mess, such as the Sand Kingdom's objectives that we've witnessed last episode. Nonetheless, often Odyssey unnecessarily spotlights objectives via cutscenes. The Lake Kingdom's introductory cutscene shouldn't highlight the kingdom's first and only objective, because the kingdom already highlights the objective very naturally. From Mario's very first moments after touchdown, the Odyssey offers a clear view of the main objective, the brutal ship, and that view alone provides a loose sense of direction, purpose, or motivation. If the player lacks direction, then they'll explore until they discover the brutal ship for themselves. In addition, the broken stairs guide the player's eyes toward the brutal ship and provokes a search for an alternative path into the lake town proper. The broken stairs and the brutal ship view aren't necessary insofar as the only path is forward and nothing suggests otherwise, but they're respectable details, even if they're demeaned by a cutscene and some unnamed NPC. After the Odyssey's touchdown, Moon 6 and a few purple coins introduce us to the Lake Kingdom. They're essentially a welcome gift for the successfully landed Odyssey. The Odyssey doesn't involve gameplay in between kingdoms, so Moon 6 tests the player's ability to press the A button on the kingdom's selection screen. 2 rocks rest nearby for some kickin' good times. The rocks resemble Cascade's Moon 20, but without a moon involved this time around. Keep the empty rocks in mind for future episodes. A binoculars capture almost laughably provides another view of the brutal ship objective, but nevertheless, I would define the capture's worth by the view of the beautiful sky. Wow, let me explore that. Hey, wait, what's that in the sky? Sadly, the purple coins behind a zipper and wall jumping demand more involvement and inputs than a moon in the same area. How does the secondary reward type of purple coins serve as a stronger welcome gift than the poster child reward type? A nearby second zipper reveals purple coins for less effort than the first and for no particular reason. Both zippers all but equally bask in the novelty of water, but the first decides to also involve the player. The zipper capture's starting position suggests which direction it unzips, and it always unzips in a single direction. The zipper doesn't have to portray reality as long as it's consistent, but since zipping is an everyday action for many, the lack of the zipper's single direction attribute could feel uncanny at worst. As expected, the zipper capture simply zips and unzips. Unlike a more involved capture like the Cheep Cheep, the simplistic zipper is more a means to an end. For example, Mario unzips a wall to reveal a new space. We don't care about the act of unzipping nearly as much as the wall's transformation into a new hidden area. Unfortunately, the newly unveiled area is completely empty except for Moon 4, so I'm sure most of you find unzipping quite a bit more invigorating. The mandatory zipper located in front of the Odyssey actually reveals an area filled with game assets ripe for exploration. Moon 4 could learn from this. Another zipper above the town plaza reveals purple coins and relies on a single high jump. Why aren't zippers integrated more into the level design? The unzip should reveal new routes, shortcuts, or footholds for reaching new areas, or at the very least, pose a challenge. Odyssey may not use space effectively behind zipped walls, but zippers can also provide additional platforms to stand on. Mario unzips entire platforms of different shapes and sizes to create a path for sub-area Moon 22. One unzip even fells an entire group of mini-Goombas. Unfortunately, the scope leaves much to be desired. A couple of the shapes are unique, but they form a simple straight path, and there are only 3 platforms to unzip. The zipper should include more shapes, verticality, and applications. For example, how about we unzip multiple surfaces to create 3D structures? The bonus Moon 23 slightly experiments by embedding a zipper onto an unzipped platform. But that's it. Moon 23 teases a different zipper application as a proof of concept more than anything. And proof of concept is the best descriptor for the sub-area in general. And there you go! That's every zipper accounted for in Lake Lamode. The zipper capture is surprisingly underdeveloped. Right before we encounter our first mandatory zipper, we bump into a red flower called a hat trampoline. Mario Odyssey presumes the player will whack the hat trampoline with Mario's main mechanic, the Cappy Throw. The game trusts the player to experiment with the hat trampoline until they figure it out. The player feels much more satisfaction from discovery without handholding than with handholding. In fact, the existence of handholding contradicts discovery, exploration, and the accompanying satisfaction. Coincidentally, we witness a Lochladies handholding at the hat trampoline's intended destination. What happened to the trust? What about the innate player satisfaction from the self-discovery of the Water Plaza's path? Where else could we possibly find the path to the Water Plaza anyway? Coins guide our way to the zipper as well, and coins have virtually always been Mario's greatest asset in player guidance without handholding. The Lochladies dialogue exists not because of the player's lack of experience or knowledge of the zipper capture. The player will figure out the zipper on their own, no matter if it's learned via the mandatory zipper or the two optional ones nearby. The zipper behind the Lochlady leads to an underwater cave or path toward the Lake Town Plaza. Oh, thanks, Cappy. I would have run into the spikes otherwise. Cappy's warning doesn't build his character, but rather tutorializes the spikes. The spikes express affordance extremely well, so the tutorialization is superfluous. Moon 8 hides in a 50-50 path decision at a fork in the road further on in the cave. The Moon 8 path is shorter and doesn't contain enemies or otherwise moving hazards, unlike the main path. Besides the slight Moon 8 deviation, this cave system serves as a linear transition from Odyssey's touchdown to the plaza and nothing more. The cave system could have been a mini exploration area. Perhaps part of the cave system comprises deeper sections without air bubbles, so we'd have to come back later as a Cheep Cheep to further explore. I would also love to see moon shards hidden in this potential cave system. Coincidentally, the end of the path supplies us with a Cheep Cheep. The Cheep Cheep capture can dive, surface, and attack like it says on screen. The attack triggers from either motion controls or the rotation of the control stick. Wait a second, I don't see the control stick rotation option on the screen, nor in the action guide. If the controls persistently and obnoxiously stay on the screen, they should be comprehensive and accurate. At the very least, the action guide should contain any and all controls for each capture. But even then, the attack's control stick rotation is super awkward. There's no excuse for the game's inane and neglected button mappings. The controls also fail to mention the dash. Dash activates from pressing Y and B, or dive and surface, at the same time. Why arbitrarily exclude one of the 4 Cheep Cheep abilities not only from the on-screen controls, but the action guide? Currently, players can only discover the dash by accident. Once captured, the Cheep Cheep's eyes oddly turn into flashlights. The light never assists with exploration, such as pitch-black caves. I feel bad for the Cheep Cheep since it'll more likely be bullied for having flashlight eyes than anything. The Cheep Cheep capture breathes underwater and freely navigates through water. Cheep Cheeps bounce helplessly on land and can't survive for very long, so they serve a clear purpose: water exploration. They're ripe for underwater moon shards. Moons should stress challenge or platforming alongside exploration, but moon shards incentivize particularly exploration without heavy stress on challenge. Moon shards are comparable to red coins in Super Mario 64. The collection of 8 red coins leads to a star. The star's challenge comprises the exploration and platforming of each individual red coin. The red coins may not require much on their own, but together they provide enough for the star to feel rewarding and satisfying. Similarly, we swim around as a Cheep Cheep to explore every nook and cranny for moon shards. The resulting Moon 12 feels more satisfying to collect than most other Lake Kingdom moons because a journey or exploration of moon shards culminates to the moon. In fact, one of the moon shards hides behind boxes and enemies. This moon shard provides more of a challenge than the moons we've discussed thus far in this episode, and without sacrificing exploration. Moon 12's moonshard locations demonstrate a key design flaw. Mario Odyssey can often interchange moons and moonshards and you'd never notice. For instance, compare Moon 12's moonshards with the moons in the same area. Moon 2 simply floats upon Dory's back. The game could substitute Moon 2 for a moonshard and you'd never bat an eye. Moon 3 is very similar to one of the moonshards. The game could swap them and you'd never bat an eye. Many other moons in Lake Lamode can be substituted for moonshards, like moons 4, 5, 6, 8, 16, 17, 26, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39. One of the broken pillars holds Moon 7. Another broken pillar holds a moonshard. Yet another nearby broken pillar holds yellow coins. Mario Odyssey treats all three collectibles as virtually interchangeable, yet they vary in value considerably. Odyssey uses yellow coins for player guidance, but also exploration. You know what other collectibles Odyssey sometimes uses for exploration without additional collectible defining factors like challenge, pacing, or obstacles? Moons, moonshards, and purple coins. They're all often interchangeable, yet all possess different values and/or presentations. Mario Odyssey probably contains 880 moons because many of them were mistakenly placed instead of yellow or purple coins. Nothing would feel off if the game shipped with certain moon, moonshard, and coin placements swapped. The consistent difference between red coins and stars in Super Mario 64 simply doesn't exist for moonshards and moons. Mario Odyssey's collectible types don't consistently have their own unique identity or individuality. The problem fundamentally falls back on power moons and how the game treats them as a low-value reward. Moon 12's moonshards reward exploration, but one in particular stands out: the moonshard behind boxes and enemies. I'll presume the player captured a Cheep Cheep for the moonshards because the game expects and incentivizes the usage of them for the Lake Lamode water exploration. The Cheep Cheep spin attack or dash break the boxes. The spin attack requires motion controls, so the game dooms players who can't or don't want to use motion controls. The player must experiment to discover that the dash even exists, so the game cannot rely on the dash for any potential solutions to challenges or obstacles. Only the spin attack can break the boxes for all intents and purposes. Additionally, only the spin attack can handle the enemies behind the boxes, so apparently screw you if you can't use motion controls.
I'm sorry, accessibility. You must forgive Mario for his sins.
Moon 16 slightly mixes up the Cheep Cheep capture. We jump the Cheep Cheep out of the lake water into a small pool. The Lochlady NPC requests for the Cheep Cheep, but after we grab her moon and pop back out of the capture, the Cheep Cheep resets just like any other capture, and that mildly upsets me. The Lochlady should have the option to keep her new pet. Instead of a single application of the Cheep Cheep's jump, why not build an entire course around the jump potential? Perhaps the end of the course lands the Cheep Cheep in a Lochlady's backyard pool. Then the fish remains in the pool as her new pet. If you steal the Cheep Cheep thereafter, she would revert back to her expressively sorrowful life without her pet fish. A deep well resides at the entrance of the water plaza.
I'll pound my way to the bottom.
But Corvus, use a Cheep Cheep, you stupid bum! Yes, I am homeless, but you're also correct that Moon 18 intends for Mario to capture a Cheep Cheep. Cappy even comments on both decisions. Unfortunately, we can reach the bottom of the well without a Cheep Cheep. Consequently, the only difference between Mario with a Cheep Cheep and Mario without one is how long it takes to reach the bottom. There's roughly a 17-second difference. At the very least, the well should contain obstacles and hazards on the way down. The hazards should prove difficult for Mario, but not as difficult, but still non-trivial for the Cheep Cheep. The well could possibly still be conquered by Mario's ground pound and swimming, but the player should want to search for a nearby Cheep Cheep to capture. At the top of the water plaza, we unlock a shortcut. The shortcut only saves us roughly 7 seconds, so the time saving factor is questionable, but nonetheless, the level design overall benefits from the increase in possible paths through the kingdom. The shortcut also hands us purple coins for no particular reason. The shortcut is the reward in and of itself. Moon 5. What's in the box? As if we don't know. Since Moon 5 pops out of a box, the player focuses on the moon, so the stretch of land and platforming between the box and the moon feels like it's all part of the moon's challenge. If the moon already resided in the box's target destination instead, then the player would more than likely stumble upon the moon, and so there's less satisfaction associated to it. However, the moon resides only 2 hat trampolines away, one for the box, the other for the moon, and there's almost nothing in between. I'm more interested in the 3 invisible yellow coins upon the broken pillar structure than I am in the moon. The same hat trampoline just so happens to lead us to the Lake Kingdom's brutal boss, Rango. In past episodes, I've mentioned the Brutals' phase or attack cycle skips, but I never really emphasized their importance. For example, after you land on Rango's head during his first phase, he repeatedly bounces towards you for the transition phase. I'd expect Rango to be impervious during the phase, especially given Nintendo's track record. However, if you jump on his hat, then the phase ends early. The player doesn't need to wait for the Brutals' vulnerability in between phases, and that's a significant design improvement for Nintendo. Thankfully, you may not immediately know how to stop his transition phase early because the telegraphs are not overly obvious. The spike on Rango's hat disappears, but that's the only telegraph. His hat doesn't flash like it's the 4th of July. Additionally, the player can smash in Rango's head 2 different ways. The first and main method comprises a cappy throw into Rango's thrown hat, a propulsion into the sky, and finally a spiral straight into him. The second, lesser-known method comprises a jump high enough to reach his head when he's not wearing his spiked hat. I can respect Rango because even the second method feels like purposeful design. Otherwise, he may employ arbitrary invincibility to compensate. Rango, however, is still way too trivial of a boss. Why does Rango not only stand completely still for us to hit, but he blocks his line of sight of us with his hands? He blocks his view of us to explain why he doesn't move, but regardless, it's unnecessarily contrived when he can just move. Furthermore, the player easily dodges Rango's attacks. Just like the Sand Kingdom's brutal boss fight, we stand still, whack some predictable object with our hat, and the fight's over. At the very least, Rango's arena could have integrated additional spinning spiked hats to dodge, or Rango's hat trampoline hat could bounce around the arena so it's more difficult to jump onto. Maybe spiked hats spin around the arena's edge that virtually reduce the arena size. Screw it. Remember the spinner from Twilight Princess? We can all just happily spin around the arena and jump every which way. In Super Mario Galaxy, Mario smacks the Topman tribe around until they hit a certain target and both die and affect the environment. Similarly, Mario could interrupt Rango's hat and then whack the hat toward him to chase him around the arena. Or Rango could move around the arena on his spiked hat so Mario would have to whack him around. Maybe Mario captures one of Rango's hat spinners, or Mario captures zippers to influence the arena in some way to trap Rango. Multiple combinations of different mechanics could improve the Rango boss fight. Currently, Rango is trivial and boring to fight. Now to ask the existential question. Why do the Brutals exist? To me, they're placeholders for unique kingdom fights. At best, they're trivial fights overused throughout the game. Bowser recycles Brutals as mini-boss encounters throughout the game under the guise of Bowser's contractors. Again, why do the Brutals wait around potentially for ages to fight us when they're on a time crunch? Why don't the Brutals attempt to stop Mario immediately once we land in the kingdom? Then the Brutals waste no time and proceed onward to the next kingdom after the boss fight. Or perhaps we catch the Brutals in the act of stealing rather than the direct aftermath. Or the best solution, the Broodals prepare a boss distinct to the Lake Kingdom that wreaks havoc and for us to fight instead of the Broodals. The Broodals don't fight us, they waste no time and instead fly off to the next kingdom, and now the kingdoms contain unique boss fights, preferably fought within the kingdom, along the lines of Seaside Kingdom's boss, rather than a plain arena. The kingdoms most likely feature the Broodals and the consistent lack of story coherency because of developer time and resources. My suggestions most certainly lengthen the game's development cycle, but they produce a theoretically better game. After Rango's defeat, we teleport back to the Odyssey so the game can load new assets through a load screen, namely the stairs next to the Odyssey along with moons 9, 10, 11, 15, 16, 20, and 27. Moon 9's Garden Seed now sits in the underwater passage after Rango's defeat. Moon 9 is one of my favorite Lake Kingdom moons because the seed forces Mario to slowly walk past a few enemies. Only a few enemies, but take what you can get, really. The brief challenge ends way too soon, however, but even then, the player's exploration to find the seed contributes to the overall effort involved. Problem is, we've most likely already explored everything. The kingdom's division into distinct, easy-to-explore chunks constitutes its small size. In addition, we have no reason to ever touch the underwater passage again because the stairs ensure safe, easy, and quick alternative passage, and the short, rudimentary passageway provides nothing more of value after its initial purpose of simply bridging two areas together. I enjoy timer challenges as platforming in general, probably only because they're better than Odyssey's standard of little to no platforming, but they always feel slapped in. The Kingdoms' level design could incorporate the platforming instead. For example, Moon 10's timer challenge and Moon 18's water well provide similar challenges, so the game didn't need to slap Moon 10 in. Lake Lamode's moons include two musical note ones. Moon 13's musical notes constitute a simple elliptical shape and line the seabed next to the Odyssey. We slowly walk in a circle. The moon relies on the novelty of water rather than platforming, captures, hazards, even legitimate swimming. Moon 14's musical notes reside in the only 2D space in Lake Lamode. The 2D plane consists of no captures and only a single moving platform. However, with the addition of the 3 notes underneath the platform, the moon encourages the player to think about when they should jump off the platform to grab them. We don't want the platform to move too far away from the high up notes, but on the other hand, we need to grab the floor notes before the timer runs out. Problem is, this presented player choice, balance, or strategy is all theoretical because the timer provides enough time to grab every platform note before the 3 floor notes. Moon 15 is a recycled moon from other kingdoms, including the Sand Kingdom. The only difference is the moonfish loves to consistently ram its face into the wall, which makes it an absolute hassle to catch. Hint art needs to convey just the right amount of information. Not too much, not too little. Moon 27 conveys way too much information. From one glance of the hint art, we immediately know to travel to the Cascade Kingdom, hop out of our ship, and dig a hole 5 feet away from us. Moon 20's entrance before Rango's defeat, the entrance after Rango's defeat. Yeah, okay, what? Moon 20's puzzle doesn't require thought or strategy because the solution can easily be met by some random inputs until the block fits into the space. More importantly, this is our first sub-area without a bonus moon. Mario Odyssey set a precedent that every single sub-area contains one main moon and a second bonus moon. Odyssey should place its bonus moon sparingly to incentivize exploration, but if Odyssey's gonna spill its bonus moons everywhere like Grandpa's diaper, they could at the very least be consistent. Best case scenario, the player aimlessly wanders around the Moon 20 sub-area in search of the bonus moon that doesn't exist, and then either gives up or Googles it. Odyssey names Lake Lamode's second to last sub-area Jump, Grab, Clean, and Climb. If we break down the name, jump? No, we don't jump, we use hat trampolines. Climb? Not really, although I'd like to see climbing walls in this game. Grab and Clean? Yep. Grab and Clean very accurately described this sub-area. Besides the sub-area's humorous name, the hat trampoline briefly shines. We bounce from flower to flower between structures, and it's the most satisfying part of the sub-area. Mario cleans onto ledges for the rest of the area. For the supposed climax of the sub-area, Mario shifts left, then right. Thanks, but I'll stick to the hat trampolines. The orange lift at least waits for us to board before it sets off. Otherwise, we'd hang there waiting for the lift to arrive from above. You should never make the player wait if you can help it. The end of the level fills negative space extremely well. Mario doesn't simply jump down or float around empty air, but rather floats down through yellow rings. The bonus Moon 25 requires us to think outside the box. We wait for the platform to lower again so it can raise us to the bonus moon. Unsurprisingly, Lake Lamode includes many different outfit or costume moons. Most kingdoms, including this one, recycle these outfit moons, but the Lake Kingdom's 21's uniqueness comes from the moon's humorous name. In other words, it's no less inane than any other of its kind. Like the other outfit moons, Moon 21 presents two possible scenarios. One, we already wear the outfit so we'll receive a moon for doing absolutely nothing, and two, we tediously run to the shop to buy the outfit and return back. At the very least, outfit moons could possibly be great for players to cash in some high number of collected purple coins to receive a moon as a reward. If Odyssey is feeling particularly spunky, perhaps the game could treat the dress room as a crime scene and make something of it. Or maybe I'm just spoiled by A Hat in Time. The other outfit moons 29 to 31 lie in the post-game and are no different from Moon 21 except amplified. There are 3 moons all next to each other and 2 of them request for outfits located in different kingdoms. They're the epitome of a tedious fetch quest. Either I'm already wearing the outfit so I receive an undeserved moon, or I suffer through load screens only to purchase costumes I don't even want to wear.
Fena theory da. Civarfira, participations. Wanna combo. Fairly data. Happy to.
The next post-game moon is predictably another recycled moon. The only way the player discovers Moon 28 is by accident, or if they've already discovered taxi moons in a different kingdom by accident. The player has no real reason to recapture the binoculars in the post-game. Moon 32's Koopa race may be a recycled moon, but it utilizes everything the kingdom has to offer: the hat trampolines, the zipper capture, and the Cheep Cheep capture. In addition, we thankfully race against competent Koopas. The race is dynamic because the most competent of the Koopas ends up pummeled by a mini Goomba. Usually the post-game Master Cup's Gold Koopa takes the role of competency in these races, but the Gold Koopa is only a few seconds faster than the second place Koopa. I'm unsure why both Moon 32 and 40 exists. They're the same race for all intents and purposes. Moon 33 is just Peach. Like any other kingdom she travels to, Odyssey can replace her existence with a moon shard for all I care. Earlier, I mentioned a list of moons interchangeable with moon shards. The list comprises moons that adopt the same following principle. The player stumbles upon these moons and they don't possess any redeeming qualities to boot, so I have and will only discuss approximately half of them. Most of the remaining moons on the list pop out of the moon rock. Why does the moon rock contain such simplistic, plain, and elegant moons? I don't know, but they're arguably worse than the others on the list because Moonrock moons cannot reward players on the merit of exploration. Odyssey marks Moonrock moons on the map, so they're a checklist more than anything. As we've discussed this episode, Mario Odyssey encourages players to gather moons during the first playthrough when they're densely packed in the kingdom, rather than in the late or post-game when they're sparse and have overstayed their welcome. The moon rock attempts to fix the post-game sparsity issue by scattering additional moons throughout the kingdom. The moon rock is a bandage that suppresses instead of fixes or addresses the fundamental issues with moons as a reward system. Sooner or later, the moons become sparse again and their late-game tedium and banality resurfaces. Moonrock moons 36 and 37 are simple and interchangeable with moon shards, but I can't help but mention them anyway. It's just so funny to me how the Moonrock places moon 36 right next to Captain Toad's moon 18. It's the exact same moon! The game expects us to repeat the same Cheep Cheep swim or Mario ground pound spam all the way to the bottom of the well. No respectable designer would deliberately waste our time like this. Do you remember those well-placed invisible yellow coins upon the plaza's broken pillar structure? Well, now Moon 37 resides up there. See, maybe moons and yellow coins are interchangeable after all. For the Moonrock's Moon 41 sub-area, we patiently time our frog jumps onto platforms that are often covered by poison waves. The platforms decrease in size and vary in direction relative to each other. This excellent sub-area is actually a real challenge and involves a capture no less. The bonus Moon 42 offers greater challenge, but should have been removed and the challenge integrated with the initial moon. However, I'm not sure why the sub-area isn't built around the Cheep Cheep or Zipper captures. Surely the game didn't run out of ideas for captures hardly ever used, right? Surely, right? Surely there's more to these captures, right? Like, there has to be more to these captures. In conclusion, the Lake Kingdom isn't genuine in its mechanics, captures, or community and culture. Lake Lamode is simply underdeveloped. Whatever information or history the brochure contains doesn't really make sense. Only a few Lochladies reside in Lake Lamode and the plaza, none of which swim in their own lake. The town lacks tools, designers, fashion, or anything I'd expect from the land of fashion. The town plaza contains plain, empty rooms and a depressing lack of windows. I'm curious about the suicide rates. The zipper capture almost never contains anything meaningful within. Zippers as platforms is a promising proof of concept that unfortunately never sees the light of day. The Cheep Cheep capture perfectly encapsulates Moonshard exploration, but in general, the lake's exploration sorely lacks and the kingdom never addresses the exploration or capture potential. Additionally, the game never considers the Cheep Cheep's flashlight eyes or jump potential. Hat trampolines trust the player by admirably teaching their gimmick organically rather than through text or cutscenes. However, the hat trampolines fail to occupy a significant enough place in the kingdom to be commendable. I genuinely want to thank everyone who cares enough to watch until the end. The Mario Odyssey Longform Critique series is back and hopefully stronger than ever. I'll release new episodes at a more frequent rate since the episodic longform style will be a more mainstay series of the channel. I plan on remaking my A Hat in Time and Cuphead videos in this format. Of course, that's a long way off, but consider this a channel update, I suppose. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe and even clicking like on the video helps. I also have a Patreon in the description. Next episode dissects the Wooded Kingdom.